Hello, my fellow YouTubers and friends, and welcome back to another body language analysis video that I am conducting today on the Ramsey couple. Of course, they are the parents of JonBenet Ramsey, the horribly slain young girl, and her brother, who's very much so alive, Burke Ramsey. This request to do a body language reading on the Ramseys came from a subscriber who commented on one of the Chris Watts video, and I pinned her comment. Her name is Anetta S, and I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. The video that I am going to be showing you guys and doing the analysis on is a Paula Woodward interview from the year 2000. And the channel's name is Mord Og Mysteries. That's Mysteries, if you guys care to watch this without my commentary. It's right around Christmas time, and I do want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and all of that, New Year's to everyone watching. Thank you for joining me. Do subscribe, share, like, all of that. And if you guys will, give me some suggestions on what you would like to see me do or what type of videos you would want to see on my channel, I will take that into great consideration, just like I did with Anetta S, and I am grateful for her commentary. So let's just get right into it, you guys.
Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey, let's revisit what Governor Dillon said on national television this morning. He said that you were hiding behind your public relations people, your attorneys, and now you were hiding behind easy journalism. He specifically said, why?
So John Ramsey just squinted a little bit before he gave that laugh, and that squint was a kind of micro thought, and kind of going to give a lot of thought to what the journalist is asking right now. And the smile is a kind of a disgusted smile, disgusted with what this person said and what the journalist is telling him that this person said. And it's a disgusted and smile, and he's thinking that the guy is ridiculous and that the guy is insulting him highly. Because, you see, the Ramseys are very misunderstood, and they are targeted type of people. They're kind of targeted, and they feel that they are under a lot of scrutiny, scrutiny that they don't deserve.
Hadn't you talked with Peter Jennings and Tom Brokaw? Your response, Mrs. Ramsey.
As a woman, I am appalled that he said that. I consider Barbara Walters and Katie Couric to be one of the two most professional, experienced journalists in our country today.
She is disgusted, and she feels scrutinized, and she has a very Southern way of speaking and behaving. Both of them do, but more so Patsy Ramsey. And they hide and control their emotions very well in front of others. So, what else did I want to say about them? They know how to hide their emotions and their body language very well in front of others. They know how to control their breathing very well. And they are people who want to save their dignity. They are people who believe that their dignity is a very important aspect of their lives. And Patsy is angry. She's angry about what she just heard, and she's, like she said, appalled. Look at her face there.
It's a remarkable comment.
And he's telling the truth when he says that's a remarkable comment. He's looking down and to the right, so he's trying to access the left side of his brain, which the left side of your brain is more for logical thought and remembering facts and things like that, numbers and different things.
We specifically decided to go with Barbara Walters and Katie Couric because they are tops in their field and they're tough. And we didn't want to be criticized for not being challenged. They were open-ended interviews, no time limit.
And the way that Mr. Ramsey keeps kind of giving his head a quick shake and a quick nod that the journalist will not take any crap and they are this way and that way. It's because he really believes that. He's giving a hard sort of a nod to it and a quick sort of a movement of the head to it.
No restrictions. They demanded and got from us the right to ask us any question on camera that they chose to ask.
We're not hiding.
His eyes are very clear. He does not avoid eye contact with the journalist that is asking him these questions. He does not, his eye contact is on her the entire time. His eyes are very clear. And so he means what he's saying, actually.
Behind anyone.
And let me say one more time, we said this the last time the governor accused us of hiding behind our attorneys and the PR firm. We have no PR firm. There were no attorneys present at the Barbara Walters interview or the Katie Couric interview.
And he is shaking his head no, back and forth, and that is the affirmative, and that is correct, that he is shaking his head no to go along with him saying, no, that is untrue. We did this and we did that.
There are no attorneys present here today.
And no restrictions.
And no restrictions.
Were you nervous about talking with either one of those newswomen?
We respected.
He's going to tell us the truth again right now because he looked to his right. He's accessing the left part of his brain. He's accessing the facts and the memories and what he wants to say that is factual.
Them as journalists, we knew that they would be tough because the world expected them to be tough. We weren't nervous. There's no question that we could be asked that we're afraid to answer. The truth is easy.
Truth doesn't change. It's not frightening. It's not anything. It's the truth, and that's all it is.
What do you miss most about your daughter?
Patsy has a very southern way of speaking and behaving, like I said, very southern mannerism. She feels very misunderstood and she is upset, and she knows how to control herself being upset, and so does Mr. Ramsey in front of other people. And so now they're going to be asked a question about JonBenet and the way that she was or what they remember.
It's not frightening. It's not anything. It's the truth, and that's all it is.
What do you miss most about your daughter, Mrs. Ramsey?
I miss her butterfly kisses. She used to come up and give me a little brush with her eyelashes on my cheek, and her little...
So the reason I believe that Patsy is looking far away when she is saying this, and she's looking past the journalist and away from the journalist who's asking her this question, is because I think that she is envisioning JonBenet, and she is envisioning exactly what JonBenet and how JonBenet did this thing in front of her, and she is actually almost seeing her daughter there, and that is that gaze to me, if you ask me.
Hugs and her spontaneity.
She was a spark plug in our life. She kept the place rocking. It's a huge vacuum in our family, all of our family.
It is said that
So again, he looked down and to the and he looked down and to his right when he said that, which is accessing the memories, and he looked down instead of up, or instead of kind of in the middle area there, because he is just so emotional, really, and sad, and kind of ashamed, sort of, or feels the scrutiny, like I said, and that's why he looks down with that when he says it. But keep in mind, he's also looking to the right, so he's telling the truth.
no parent should ever lose their child. You have lost 2 children. How do you survive?
You survive first because you have other children that need you to survive.
It's not easy.
That's the first thing that you realize, is that I can feel desperately sorry for myself, but I have...
Shaking his head yes in the affirmative, And that is going along with what he said. He's, it's very unfortunate that he's lost 2 children. In one in the tragic circumstances of a car crash, his older daughter, and then now JonBenet, somebody coming to kill her.
Other children that depend on me now more than ever. We still have 3 wonderful, precious children. We have a grandchild on the way, which we're thrilled about.
He's excited for the grandchild, like he said. We're thrilled about it because his eyebrows, he raised his eyebrows, in an excited way when he said that.
And you keep going because you're their parent. You have to.
And it doesn't mean that you keep going 100% all the time. There are days when I'm in bed crying my eyes out for the whole...
Her eyes are, they're kind of looking like, and let me tell you, okay, it is not easy. And if you don't know what it's like to go through this, then you can't really say anything. That's what her eyes are saying. She's got a lot of pain about this.
Whole day. It's kind of an up and down situation. It's not easy, but we're here with a mission to find the killer of our daughter. So yes, we will sit here as long as you'd like to sit and ask us questions. And tomorrow I may be in my bed crying myself to sleep. But I'm going to do that until we find this person.
And there will be people who watch this and say, as you say that, we want to find the killer. They'll say, well...
She put so much exuberance in what she just said that she had to clear her throat afterwards because she's very messed up from this. And I see that one of her eyes, which would be her left eye, for her it's her left eye, for us looking at it it's her right eye, it's smaller than the other eye. And I think maybe she does some pills or something like that because she just can't handle what happened. This is horrible thing that happened to their family, and they let too many people in and out of their home. They were too trusting of others, and because of that, they were also naive in certain ways. So
you are the killer.
Look, we're never going to convince cynics of the truth, so we don't try to. What we're trying to...
And she was shaking her head no, and he was shaking his head no when the journalist said what she just said, because they don't believe that people are going to be convinced. They're just there to find the killer of their daughter, like they said, and they don't expect people to be convinced, and they kind of don't care, and they're tired of hearing this kind of scrutiny, and that's why they shake their head no.
Do is solicit help from the public to find this creature and to beg the Colorado officials to be at least objective and open enough to listen when that tip comes through. Then we'll find this person.
What's going on with this hatred and obsession and fringe?
I don't know. What we've learned through all this, we've come out of this realizing there are a lot of good people in the world. We've had wonderful people come forward and support us from all over the world. And even though you'd think that we would come out of this being hateful and want to go to a mountain retreat and fence ourselves off from the world, we realize there are some wonderful, good people in the world. But we also realize that there's some very...
I think like maybe he doesn't want, maybe he keeps licking his lips while he talks because I feel like he doesn't want to whistle, or he doesn't want his words to sound a certain way, whatever type of speech, little thing that would come out in his speech perhaps. He is used to conducting business meetings and everything because of the amount of money that he made and what his company was and everything. And it's like I said, they can hide their emotions and their body language very well from others.
Evil, bad people in the world. That's a fact. We were naive about that, but it exists. There are more good people than bad, but the bad exists. And we're never going to change that.
So he just said what I confirmed, which I didn't really know that he was going to say that. I think I've seen this video one other time before. But he said we were naive because there are bad people out there, and we were very trusting of others. and like I said, they let people in and out of their home, whoever you want to say, they had people had keys and everything. And it's just incredible the way that, that the Colorado Police Department and whoever, made them look so horrible in front of the entire world and very misunderstood, and how much power the media holds to shape people's ideas of things. So I believe that the suspect, Michael Helgoth, seems like he would be into a lot of movies, which, as we know, the ransom note had a lot of different lines from different movies, that were going on. And the movies, I think, were also, there was a poster or something like that of one of those movies and a saying similar to that in a book or a movie or something from their home, and it was similar to what was written in the ransom note. And the person, the person who wrote the ransom note used a lot of different lines from movies. Michael Helgoth, to me, seemed like he would be into a lot of movies, like some kind of dude like that. And the Santa Claus suspect had too many. The Santa Claus suspect and the woman as a couple, the married people, had too many coincidences in common with this case. Their daughter had been kidnapped and or killed before or way before this murder, and they also wrote a play about a child getting kidnapped and or killed. We know that. So there are a lot of different suspects in this case.
And we're not trying to convince the bad people and the cynics and the hateful people that we loved our daughter and that we didn't kill her. We're trying to appeal to the good people and say, let's find this evil creature that's among us and put him away, because this person will kill another child.
Do you want him to contact you?
I would be desperate for a contact. At a minimum, please leave. You've done a crime that is
Again, with the looking to the right while he answered that question, yes, I would be desperate for that evil, wicked monster to call me and to get in contact with me. And he looked to the right again when he said that. And because they are good at controlling their body language and everything, they keep the same body language, whatever their body language is, with the looking to the right and his licking his lips, and they do certain things. They're so well controlled that they don't really differentiate in their body language that much. So they'll be doing whatever they give you, and whatever visual signals in their body language that they give you stays the same pattern. They don't really give you a lot more to work with.
Captured world attention. Please tell somebody about it.
Why?
Because ultimately, we want to know who you are.
And why does that person care what you think?
That person, I'm sure, doesn't care what we think at all. I'm sure that person, we've been told that person was either very angry at me or was very jealous of me personally, and that's a heavy burden for me to carry.
This is true, and he is very guilty feeling for that. For that, they feel very guilty, and they feel like was their responsibility in that way. Because he was so successful, and maybe somebody was jealous of his success and decided to go after his daughter or whatever. And, Patsy also feels guilty for certain things, and maybe putting her daughter in pageants and displaying her certain ways in front of grown people. But I wanted to say, there's so many suspects in this case. Like I said, there was a man who attempted to either kidnap or kill another little girl around JonBenet's age after JonBenet was brutally murdered. And, I don't specifically remember what it was, but the Colorado police said, nah, we're not going to look into that. That's not related. And that's incredible that they did that, because the man who had went inside of this little girl's bedroom window, or whatever had happened, he got inside the house, and the little girl saw him in her bedroom, and she started screaming or whatever, and, thank God her mom came to get her. But, they're just, like I said, so many different suspects here. And Michael Helgoth, once again, appeared to be murdered, because he was killed, and then, they said that it was a suicide, but he appeared to be murdered. Even to the police department or whoever was investigating, they had their suspicions, to be silenced probably by someone else who thought he would tell on them for murdering JonBenet. It did not appear to be a suicide as first thought. So Michael Helgoth told another person that he did something bad and was supposed to get some money for it, but the deal ended badly and he didn't receive the money that was expected. There are so many different suspects here, and I feel so terrible for these people, for the Ramseys.
But this person should tell someone that they're the one.
Mrs. Ramsey, do you want to ever talk to this person? The person you believe killed your daughter?
Of course I would, because I'd like to know who it is, get them off the streets. And if I had the opportunity, I would sit down and look straight in the eye and say, why? Why did you do this to my child? Why?
So before or during the last time that she just said why, there was a bit of not a grin, but a bit of a pulling back of her lips. And it's kind of a look to me to say that she would question this person, and she's very angry and confused as to why this person would do something so heinous against an innocent child, an innocent soul, an innocent being on the earth, and why to her and her family. And so that look was kind of like, tell me why. I want to know, because there is no reason why to take the life of a child, and especially in the way you did to my daughter.
Let's go over some of the assumptions if we can. I believe you call them the urban myths in your book. And let's just go over and look at your responses. There were conflicting versions, Mr. Ramsey, that you read to your daughter that night, or that you put her to bed and read a book. Which was it?
We saw there were a number of errors in the police report. That was one of them. I carried JonBenet upstairs. She was asleep when we got home. I put her to bed. I got Burke to bed. I went upstairs and I read for a few minutes before I fell asleep. I didn't read to her because she was asleep.
Okay. And Mrs. Ramsey?
So when he said that there are a number of errors, again, he looked to his right. He's telling the truth about that. And he did read somewhere or hear about there being the errors, and he did take that he did pay attention to that, or he was aware of that before she said that, and he kept nodding his head yes when he was saying the affirmative of what he was saying just now. And when he wanted to say no, whatever you're saying or whatever you're hearing isn't right, he also shook his head no, back and forth.
You are the one who last saw her.
Yes.
In your family. The pineapple. What about the pineapple? The autopsy revealed pineapple, yet neither of you recall pineapple.
Well, I've not specifically read the autopsy report, but it is my understanding that they are not definitive about whether the substance in her digestive system was pineapple or not. All I'm saying is that I did not feed her pineapple when we returned.
So when she got ready to answer this question, she took a breath and leaned her body back like if she was preparing, and this is not this again, gosh, let me go through the same answer to answer this question again, and it just kind of a little bit annoying for her, but I do believe her answer and the way that she responded to this is correct and accurate, and I don't think that she's being deceptive here.
Home from the White's house. She was sound asleep. She was put in her bed and tucked in good night.
And we don't know if that's significant or not. All we know is what we've told the police, and that is that neither Patsy or I gave JonBenet pineapple when we got home that night.
So he's also aggravated and a little bit annoyed by the question too. That's kind of why he butted in there, to say, hey, we don't know anything about that. Okay, so I think we've answered that question several times. We just don't know anything about this. Kind of a little bit of an annoyance, but trying to control it at the same time.
Had we been trying to hide something, it would be very easy for us to say, oh yeah, I remember, I gave her a pineapple before she went to bed. Next question. But that's not what happened.
Footprints outside the house. No evidence of footprints.
I think it said no footprints in the snow. And we have seen photographs that were taken the morning of the 26th
By the police.
by the police of each of the door entries and around the house, and there was no snow.
So that's a accurate statement, and with her kind of a squinching of the eyes, or I don't know how to say it because I'm just doing the face right now. I'm doing the face to myself, the face that she just made, kind of like a ridiculous kind of look, like, oh my gosh, there wasn't even any snow, that morning is an accurate depiction through her face that we're looking at.
Urban myth.
Mr. Ramsey, you left the house to get mail.
That, I heard that. I don't know where that came from. Our mailbox is not outside. There's a slot in the door.
When he said that, he just raised his eyes. Our mailbox is not outside, actually. It's matter of fact that he is speaking in a matter of fact tone right now. Like, actually, you guys don't know what the hell you're talking about. Our mailbox is inside, such and such, whatever.
There was a pile of envelopes at the foot of the door inside the house. I was desperately looking for another communication from the kidnapper. There's a slot in the door. There was a pile of envelopes at the foot of the door inside the house. I was desperately looking for another communication from the kidnapper. Phone, mail, I didn't know how it was going to come. I went through those envelopes to see if there was anything else from the kidnapper. We'd just gotten a letter, a 3-page ransom note on the back stairs. I was hopeful that there was another communication. My question is, why didn't the police do that?
Mrs. Ramsey, did you ever leave the house that morning?
No, I did not.
Okay. Mrs. Ramsey, the 911 call. There are contradictions about whether or not the phone was hung up and whether or not your son Burke came downstairs and was talking. Some police officers believe that they can hear that on an enhanced audio tape. Others say no. What do you say?
Well, we have not heard the 911 tape, but we understand from people who have heard it that it sounds like a bunch of chipmunks chattering and that it is almost unintelligible. All we know is that Burke did not come downstairs.
Okay, so Patsy has a very clear memory of this. Her memory of what the interviewer is asking her is very straightforward and very basic. She cleared her throat before answering the question, which means she's ready to give a clear answer about it. She blinked and her eyes sort of kind of came together in a squinch against her nose when the woman said the words 911 call. She kind of went back to that day and back to the 911 call in her head at that moment, actually. And she particularly does not like this misconception and this misconstruing, where people are asking her about Burke possibly being on the recording from the 911 call, or possibly, oh, we heard Burke. This bothers her a lot.
That morning, nor did we say to him, go back, or whatever it is they say that it's said on the 911 tape.
When she looked and said, nor did we say to him to go back, or whatever it is they said on the 911 tape, she looked to the left. And the reason that I think that she probably looked to the left when she said that was because she was trying to come up with words, certain specific words, that she felt like people were putting into the recording, and these are the words that people are hearing in the 911 call that Burke said.
I phoned the police, called 911 from the kitchen telephone, wall phone, hung up, dialed one set of our friends, hung up, and dialed another set of friends and asked them to come quickly.
Her pointing and directing with her fingers that she did just now, and the way that she looked at her fingers and towards the direction that her fingers were going in, kind of said to me that this is very clear. It's very simple what happened. I hung up the phone to call my friends because I was freaking out and I was trying to get some type of a clue or support or anything as to what was going on in that moment. That's what that means to me when she just did that with her hands.
To help.
How soon after that 911 call did you dial the first?
Immediately. So it seems to me like if you hang up the phone, you're not going to be able to place another call unless the phone is completely.
This is an
A little bit of sarcasm there. It seems to me as though if you don't hang up the phone, you can't place another phone call. A little bit of sarcasm there because she's getting a little bit aggravated and annoyed by that question and by that insinuation that Burke may have been in the 911 call. It's kind of annoying and aggravating to her. And to her, it is a very simple idea that she would have to hang up the phone with 911 to go and call her friends. And it's like I said, these people haven't ever really even probably witnessed a crime before. So they don't have what you and I might consider the quote unquote perfect response to this horrible, hideous, wicked act that has been committed against their daughter. They don't know what the hell's going on in this moment that she is speaking of.
There's been no logic applied to any of this case, in my judgment. Again, if we were trying to hide something, we'd say, oh yeah, I remember, Burke did get up and I told him to go back to bed. Next question. But the fact of the matter is, that didn't happen.
They're grasping at straws instead of trying to get down to brass tacks and find this killer.
When she just said they're grasping at straws and she shook her head back and forth, no, she thinks that it's ridiculous and that they shouldn't be grasping at straws. We should be doing something more important, which is finding the killer of our daughter, no matter what it looks like to the world. We were the ones who were there, and we don't care about what anybody thinks went on because we were the ones who were there and we didn't murder our kid.
I would love...
Why are they doing this?
I don't know why. I think they became so invested early on. They decided that John and I were responsible, and everything, if it didn't fit into that basket, then they discarded it. And they went down that road for so long that now they can't, they're going to be the ones with egg on their face.
Slapping her knees with a little bit of, just very much aggravated, even for a person of her caliber. It's like I said, they're very good at holding in their body language. They have a lot of composure, but even that was a display for her of great emotion in front of the camera, which she doesn't want to really do. She's completely just so sick of this type of body language.
And they can't face that.
But these are, some would say...
And they can't face that, and then she does a one-time nod as if she's saying yes, up and down, head nod. And that is telling the interviewer basically that's exactly what it is. You asked me, so that's the exact reason why. It's like I said, the Colorado Police Department did zoom right in on the family and pay attention to nothing else that was going on or to any other clues or suspects or anything.
A reasonable, honest, intelligent, logical...
Some would say.
Well, look, individually, we've not met one...
That was an angry statement. Some would say. Some would say that this person is intelligent and wonderful and great. I would not say that.
Boulder police detective or police officer that I didn't think was a decent human being. What they lacked was experience, and they lacked leadership. There was no core wisdom that mentored these young detectives and said, wait a minute, boys, let's keep the investigation, the evidence. Let's let the evidence tell us who killed this child. Linda, I mean, you talk about the bias we were faced with. Linda Arnott, the first detective that was there all morning, said on national television, I saw it in John Ramsey's eyes that morning that he was the killer. Conclusion.
His facial expressions and the movements of his head that we saw just now are of him trying to convey that Linda Arndt, the first police detective who showed up at the scene that night, was absolutely convinced from the start. She was never going to give us a chance, and these people were never going to give us a chance because they just had a little bit of, what I believe is that there might have been several people in the town who would have been jealous of them or looked at them a certain way because they were more affluent or whatever than the other people in town, which I'm sure there were other people like them, but most of the town isn't. They do, Boulder, Colorado is a nice place to live, but not everyone was at the status that the Ramseys were at.
That early.
What'd you see in your eyes?
I don't know. I think she saw shock. I think she saw the eyes of a father who
Keeps looking to the right. He is telling the truth as he's making these statements.
had just been told his daughter was dead and she was lying in front of him. I don't know what I look like. I'm sure I looked horrible.
Mrs. Ramsey, when, going back to that morning, when did you realize that your husband had found your daughter?
So when the interviewer said, going back to that morning, and we saw Patsy's eyes squint a little bit and lower her eyelids in a squinting way, it hurts her every single time that she has to go back to that morning, and every single time she hears words that are similar to that. Or let's go back to that day, or let's go back to that morning, or let's talk about that Christmas, or whatever. You can just look at her eyes as I'm speaking to you, and you can see there's very clear frustration and sadness and a bit of guilt, because people were scrutinizing her about her daughter being in pageants and everything. You can see all of that written on her face.
Or that something was really, really wrong even after the ransom note. What did you hear from the basement?
I heard John scream, just kind of this guttural, deep scream.
So she closes her eyes there because she doesn't want to remember it, but she remembers how horrible and guttural it was.
And what did you think?
I didn't know what to think. I was in our little den with a couple of our friends, and Fleet White came running in and dialed 911. He said, we need an ambulance. And I jumped up and said, what is it? What is it? And they held me back and wouldn't let me go. Kept saying, we don't know. I don't know what's the problem. And I was fighting and trying to get loose and to go see what was the problem.
And what happened when you got loose?
I went into the living room, and John was standing there with Linda Arndt, and JonBenet was lying on the floor.
Okay, obviously hard for her to get those words out, hard for her to speak about this.
And he said that she was dead.
She wanted to cry there. We saw the movement of the jaw. Her lower jaw came forward. Okay, she's holding in, crying. And you know what, I just want to say, whatever you guys, whatever your opinion is of the Ramseys and whether or not they did something wrong here or whether they were the culprit in this case, I do want to just remind you all that none of us were actually there at that time. None of us can say that we were physically there. We knew what happened that night. Okay, it's all our own speculation. And what I am going off of when I read this woman and her husband is my own intuition, my own feelings, my own experience with body language and just with people in general in life and in life itself in general, okay, and different energy and just different things, okay, that we see and go through and experience and become aware of and are in knowledge of throughout our lives, okay.
Mr. Ramsey, the police officers told you, or the police officer, the police detective told you to search the house. Tell us about that, please.
I don't remember exactly when it was that morning, but we were standing in the foyer of the house, and Linda Arndt asked me to take someone with me and go through the house thoroughly, look for anything that was out of the ordinary. Fleet was standing there, my friend, and we both went to the basement and first went into what we call the train room, which is where we found the open window and the suitcase up against the wall. We looked there for glass again to see if we could find any.
And when he just said and he brought his two lips together to sort of purse together, and then he released the lips, that is a facial expression that I associate with trying to bring out more information from the back of your mind, trying to come up with whatever it is that might be extra information or bring out as much of the story telling as you can.
Any glass, because the window was not only open, it was broken. Then I went to the room where we did find JonBenet. The door was latched. I unlatched and pulled it open, and knew instantly what I found.
Tell us about that, please. Well,
it was a rush of relief, but also fear, because her eyes were closed. I immediately took the tape off of her mouth, tried to untie her arms were bound above her head. I tried to untie the knot, and I couldn't get it untied. Her skin was cool to the touch. And,
okay, and I want to point out the fact that he is always looking at the journalist who is asking him questions. He doesn't avoid eye contact with her. The only time he avoids eye contact with her is mostly to look down and to his right to answer a question, looking down to his right to access the left part of his brain, which holds logic and actual fact and information that has to do with logic and facts and stories of facts and things that happened, going to access that memory by looking down to the right or just to the right in general.
I picked her up, and that's when I screamed, because I was, I guess, just realizing that things were not going to be okay after all.
And things never have been since.
No, they never will be. We've lost our child. It's never going to be the same.
So this look that we just saw from Patsy was one of the most powerful looks and the most powerful pieces of body language that she has given us through this interview. It hurt her to hear those words come out of her husband John's mouth. That was a look of complete scrutiny from the entire world, and the entire world doesn't actually know what happened, because like I said, none of us were there. So to go around judging these people and thinking that we know what happened that night, think about, what if it was you? What if you were the one being judged? In the entire world of media looking at you as if you did something wrong and you don't love your daughter and you were abusive and you killed her and you guys did this and that, and as if they were there that night, as if they're part of your family, or as if they have intimate knowledge of you and what you do in life and how you are and all of these things. No one can speak for you, so why is it that the whole world thinks they can speak for a couple whose daughter was brutally murdered? That look that she just gave us is a look of incredible pain of scrutiny from who knows how many millions of people that don't know these people. Millions of people that don't know these people at the end of the day. And I do believe that Patsy, she had died of cancer a few years after JonBenet was murdered. And I do believe that that was stress related. That was related to her losing her daughter. We don't know if she would have beat cancer, okay, if her daughter would have survived and not have been killed that night.
When is it that you finally came to the reality that there are people who do things like this?
That day.
That day.
You read about crime in the paper and you think, well, there must have been a reason, or it's not going to happen to you. And you kind of, we see so much crime on television. I think we almost put real crime in the same category as kind of make-believe that happens in a different world. This happened in our world, and for no reason that we know of. I hope that I have never done anything that has made someone so angry with me that they would kill my daughter. We don't think we know anybody that's.
So this statement that John is making right now goes hand in hand with what I said earlier when I said these people have probably never even witnessed a crime. They are just not, that's just not their world, as he just explained. So they can't imagine something happening to them, that is this devastating, okay? So that is true and correct when he says that he would have never imagined, that there were people out there like this, and it was more of a movie and more of a make-believe sort of a scenario to him because, hey, we live in a certain type of neighborhood and I've made my life a certain type of way. I've worked hard to get where I am, and we just didn't think that was our world, or that was a part of the heart and minds of people who were around us. We never knew that these are the type of people who could even be around us and in our world and in our space.
It's evil.
But somewhere along the way,
but our paths crossed with this creature. Somehow we got in their sights.
I don't think it was a random act.
No,
I
this person didn't just walk by our house that evening and decide to come in there. This was well thought out.
What do you think, Mrs. Ramsey? What do you think happened? Did he stalk you that day?
There must have been something like that. From what we talked with people who have.
Again, and not the nodding of the head, yes, to confirm what she's saying, to go right along with what she's saying. Yes, what the journalist is saying. Yes, I do believe that might have been a part of it. Yes, and then her forehead between her eyebrows wrinkles, right up above her bridge of her nose, that gets wrinkled as if she is, and any of us do that. Any of us at any point of our lives have looked at somebody and said, oh yeah, I think that's about right.
Have experience in this, and they say that it was premeditated, that this person knew of us, may not have been a close acquaintance, but knew about us, knew about John's business, knew that we had children, and I believe was watching the house that day. And when we left
and that is an incredible source of guilt to both Patsy and John. Their position in the community, as much money as they made every year, the different houses that they owned, them sort of showing off their lives to others, not to give out a negative vibe to others as if to say, we have these things and you don't, but to simply try to share their lives and to share the wonderful things that they've worked for with other people, and to give other people possibly some hope that they could, possibly own these things one day, or that, yes, sure, even though we are rich and even though we have, homes and we have a certain status, we are not so conceited and we are not so full of ourselves that we will not allow people to come to our house and be a part of our lives.
Afternoon, he came in.
How long do you think this person was in the house, Mr. Ramsey?
They certainly could have been in the house for 4 or 5 hours while we were gone. I don't know when
Do
they
you think
came
the person
in.
was in the house before you left?
I don't think before we left.
I don't think so. I think they came into the house after we left. Were there when we came home. Waited till we fell asleep. One of our neighbors reported seeing a flashlight light in the kitchen around midnight, I believe.
The beam of flashlight shining.
And that is true. A neighbor did report a flashlight shining in the middle of the night on that horrible night, and did report a child scream. Okay, and they didn't call 911 or do anything about it because they thought, hey, you know what, that's the parents' business. They're there. They heard their child scream, or they know what's going on. It's not my family. I don't know what's going on. And that's not my business. Okay, but it's like I said, the Ramseys do have an incredible sense of guilt because they felt as though they shouldn't let everyone in their life, and they shouldn't share their joys and what they've earned and what they're proud of with just everyone. They just in general were naive, and they believed that everyone was everyone was for their best interest. And really, there's a lot of actual monsters out there. I'm talking about monsters. Think of a monster like a child thinks of a monster when they can't sleep at night, coming from underneath their bed in the darkness. Real monster.
None of this. It's so cruel, but it also, none of it makes sense.
Look, this person is a monster. It's a subhuman. This person doesn't think like you and I do. This person is not going to make sense.
I mentioned to you before that I wanted you to look at the ransom note again.
So I liked that Mr. Ramsey used the word subhuman. That was a perfect word to describe the person who did this.
Just go over what you know about the ransom note with us, if I can find it.
All right, everyone, and we are going to end this segment or this part of the body language review on the Ramseys here. I do want to mention before we go, you guys should take a look at Patsy's body language as she sits there on that couch right now, how postured she is, how put together, her hands and her legs are. So I just wanted to reiterate how you're not going to get a lot of body language out of these people. And when you do, there is something to say for that body language that you do see. And I did want to mention that rich people, and when I say rich people, I'm not talking about celebrities and people who shake their butt down to the ground and all other crap like we see in society nowadays. I'm talking about people who have earned the position that they are at, who have worked hard for it, and are affluential by their own admission. Okay, they do tend to have, like I said, different body language than the rest of us. They do tend to do a lot of conserving of energy of their body language, so you won't see, people in this type of status really use a lot of their body language unless it's purposeful. So let me just give you an example. As the interviewer is asking John to take a look at this note right now, that is when John starts to move his hands and bring out his glasses, as he is going to do, and he starts to scoot a little forward in the couch and to see the note and to get ready to look at it. Because rich people conserve their body language, and they conserve their body movements and their energy, and they move with purpose. Every time they move, it's with purpose, okay? Because they don't like to waste a lot of their energy on things that have no purpose. And so this is, like I said, where we're going to end. I appreciate all of the subscribers. I appreciate all of the likes, all of the shares. I appreciate if you guys are downloading this video. copying the link and sending it to others. Whatever you do here, I appreciate the comments. I want to talk about this video and my analysis. What do you think that I may have done wrong, or that I may need to add into the next video, or that I need to maybe make a mention of? I appreciate all of the feedback from you guys, and I am eternally grateful to every single one of you. Thank you for watching. It is Christmas tomorrow, so I do want to say Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, and all of that. And I will be putting out a video shortly of part 2 of this Paula Woodward interview with the Ramseys. As soon as I can. It'll only be about, 1 or 2 days before I do the next video, so that I'm not keeping you guys waiting. And let's pray for our families and ourselves, and let's use our intuition in our daily lives to make correct discernments for ourselves. Thank you guys for watching.